Glendon, and the title of this segment, Storage Auction Confessions, Managers Going Through the Units. That is a huge concern to every storage auction hound out there. Will the manager go through the unit? Did the manager go through the unit? And I can tell you, 8 times out of 10, they did not. There's tons and tons of stories about managers going through the unit. I have a friend who's a manager and they go through the units, and I have a buddy and they have an auctioneer. All of these people are telling you that they're doing illegal shit, and it's like they're bragging about it. Number one, the people who go through the units don't talk about it. Makes no sense. Number two, the reason that most managers don't go through the units is not because they're the salt of the earth or they're the most honest people in the world. It's all about one very important thing: risk. When a storage facility puts up a unit up for auction, they have to go through what's called a lien status. You have to file a lien, you have to go to this court. There's a lot of things that go into that. And through this process, there's a lot of things that can trip up a storage facility. And one of the things is the inventory. One thing, like take Uncle Bob's. Uncle Bob's is, we slap a seal on the unit and we put it up for auction. They don't even know what's in there. And frequently, the door go up and the unit is empty because the tenant, like a dumbass, left their lock on the unit and did not respond to any of the notifications of the storage facility. So they cleaned out the unit and now they have a bad mark on their credit report because they were dumbasses. Let's talk about the inventory process. Most of the larger chains will actually inventory the unit before it goes up for auction. This involves taking the picture, writing down a few things, actually cutting the tenant's lock off, overlocking with another lock, and placing a seal. If you'll go back to the very first picture that you saw, well, actually, I'll put it right here. This thing right here. You see that little red tag that's sealed between the lock, the big red lock, and this is an Uncle Bob's storage facility. I used to store there, and I actually took this picture months and months ago. The big red lock is the overlock of Uncle Bob's. The seal is representing that that tenant is late, is potentially going to lien status or already in status. And that other lock, that's the tenant's lock. They cut the lock in front of you. I think that's real cool. Now let's talk about public storage. Their system is totally different. They overlock the tenant who's delinquent, send out notices, then bam, they put an overlock on, they put a seal, and they actually cut the lock of the tenant off each time that this person goes into a lien status. This involves going to the unit, taking a picture, writing down a few things, locking the unit back with the public storage lock, and placing a seal. That seal is very important. When you go up to a unit, one of the first things you want to do is look and see if the seal is intact. If the seal is not intact, know something funky has happened. Maybe the tenant has gotten into the unit, maybe a manager has gotten into the unit, but something funky is afoot. If the seal's intact, chances are 9 times out of 10, no one's gotten into the unit. Also, let's talk about why managers, for the most part, don't go through the units. Number one, laziness. Many of these units are arranged in such a manner that they would have to spend a lot of time to actually go through the unit. Now, if it's a unit that's half empty and they can just kind of walk and pick through stuff, that's one thing. But if the unit's jam-packed, full, they're not going through the unit. Also, this brings up the second reason, the potential of getting caught. One of the reasons I know how so many storage facilities lien processes work was I was on the property actually cleaning out a unit and I witnessed what they were doing. I actually, a lot of times, if I knew the manager and we had a good relationship, I would walk over. I was like, hey, how you doing, manager so-and-so? And say, hey, we're taking this. And it's like, click, click, bam. Because they may have to do 20 or 30 units that day, with the vast majority not going to auction. Which means to go poking around in there when you know that chances are that this person is going to pay up, you're setting yourself and your company up for a lawsuit. So understand, this whole thing about, oh, they're super honest, and this isn't to say, because there's a lot of managers who are honest people, who are Christian, who are whatever, they're not going to go through the unit because of their personal morals. I know a lot of you don't want to believe that, but ask yourself, are you that type of person? Because if the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh yeah, if it was me, that means you don't have any freaking morals. But everyone's not like you, dude. If they were, the world would not work. So that's kind of the deal with going through the units. Yes, it happens. Look for the seal. Also, when you go to a place that cuts the locks, you want to make sure you get to the clasp and you want to look in that right-hand corner and see how many times this person's been in lien status. Typically, if you see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 locks, and the most I've ever seen was 10 locks, just know the chances you finding something real good are slim to none because the tenant took it out because they paid and they got what they wanted and they paid and they got what they wanted out and then they just said, screw it, we don't really care. But bid on what you see when you see that many locks there. And that's the deal. This whole thing about the managers going through the units, if that was the case, I would have never got the gay burglar. It was a 5x10, not densely packed, a lot of clothes, but if anyone had gone through that unit and rooted around for 2 minutes, the guns were in like a bag. If they had walked in, bent down, they would have found the guns in 2 minutes. I mean, 2 minutes, maybe. It took me a few seconds to find the guns. So if someone went through that unit, they missed the guns, they missed the gold. I don't know. But that's the deal. So, yes, you should be concerned. You should be. But also you should use common sense, because if managers were consistently going through the units across the United States of America, many of these big funds, many of the things that I have personally got out of units bought at storage auctions would have never happened. I mean, there was this one unit I bought up at U-Haul. It was private mini storage before it became U-Haul. And I bought the unit, went back out there to clean it out, and there was a cigar box. And that's the reason I bought the unit. And it was right there in the front, just a little old cigar box. I lift it up, and there's 4 gold class rings in there. If they had went through the unit, I wouldn't get those gold class rings, nor the 6 shotguns in the back. So that's the deal. You're going to have some managers who are crooks. You're going to have some managers who are assholes. You're going to have some managers who absolutely, positively go through the unit. And instead of going, hey, that's everything, and make that your benchmark, oh, they're going through the unit, so I'm not going to buy anything. Educate yourself. It takes a little work. There was one place I knew for a fact they were going through the units. I will not say their name because I don't want to be sued, because I can't prove it, even though many people have come to the same conclusion. But I bought a unit that I knew they went through the unit, and I still made money because they went for the low-hanging fruit, the easy, valuable stuff. They took out the flat screen television, they took out the electronics because I found the instruction manuals and boxes, but they left the Baker table set right in there. The most expensive thing that was probably in the unit. Left it. Is everyone a freaking crook in the United States of America? Be careful before you answer that. What would you do if you were in that position? Just to boil it down and bring it all up into a nutshell. Number one, the reason managers don't go through the unit is there's a lot of risk to their personal liberty. Number two, they don't have the time. Number three, it's not worth the hassle. Number four, they don't give a shit. They're kind of like the honey badger. Seriously, there's a lot of managers, they do their 8 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours, whatever, and they get the hell on. They could care less what's in those units because that's just not their thing. And for me, and the managers that I met and got to know, and many who became friends, that was the way they are. For all you folks who have this friend or manager who goes through the units, I would like for you to actually go on record and say their name and name the property, since you're so concerned and you want to help out people. I think a lot of people put that stuff out there as a scare tactic to keep people from going to the storage auctions, because you're going to the storage auctions, you're reading my blog, you're watching my videos, and you're commenting, and that's the first thing you say, but you still going to the auctions. Why? That doesn't make any sense when you really think about it. Because you know in your grimy little heart that most of the managers aren't going through the units. You know that. That's why you keep going. All right, this is Glendon with Making Money with Storage Unit Auctions.